Welcome to another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. I'm your host, Jenny Simon. Grab your popcorn, your drink or your beverage of choice, cup of coffee, maybe a cup of tea. Don't forget the Kool-Aid for the kids. Gentlemen tell me, I must say, get your white rum. If it's only for him, get your white rum, sir. Call your neighbor, call your friends, call your mama and your papa, your grandmama and your grandpapa, your auntie and your nenin, your brothers and sisters, your nieces and nephews. Call them all and let them know that Simon Says is on. Buckle up, we'll be right back. Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode. Welcome back. Folks, I need to have a conversation with you. But before I proceed, I'm going to start by sharing with you a piece of the Constitution of Grenada, and it's Chapter 1, Section 1A and B, and it's under protection of fundamental rights and freedoms. Whereas every person in Grenada is entitled to the fundamental rights and freedoms. That is to say, the right, whatever his race, place of origin, political opinions, color, creed, or sex, but subject to respect for the rights and freedom of others and for the public interest to each and all of the following, namely, life, liberty, security of the person, and the protection of the law, freedom of conscience, of expression, and of assembly and association. Under the heading Protection of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms, in Section 11, Protection of Freedom of Assembly and Association, subsection 1 and 2, A and B. And it reads, and that is Section 11, except with his own consent, no person shall be hindered in the enjoyment of his freedom of assembly and association. That is to say, his right to assemble freely and associate with other persons, and in particular, to form or belong to trade unions or other associations for the protection of his interests. Subsection 2, nothing contained in or done under the authority of any law shall be held to the inconsistent with or in contravention of this section, to the extent that the law in question makes provisions, A, that is reasonably required in the interest of defense, public safety, public order, public morality, or public health. And B, that the reasonably required for the purpose of protecting the rights or freedom of other persons. Folks, we all have the right to associate. with whomever we prefer. That's it. Right? Now, therefore, to the NDC and the surrogates, the bullies, whatever you want to call them, I, Jennifer Simon Rapier, have the right, according to the Constitution of Grenada, Order 1973, the supreme law of this land, I have the right to associate with whomever I want. And I will not be bullied for my choice. On Sunday, the 5th, 2026, I was invited to, and accepted the invitation to be a panelist on the Bob Report for a conversation on the state of politics in Grenada. By the way, it was an interesting, very interesting conversation. For those of you who haven't seen it, you should check it out on YouTube. Now, on there, and before I did my presentation or spoke for the first time, I made it quite clear that I do not represent the NNP, the New National Party. I do not, and here on Simon Says, I do not represent no party, neither the NNP, the NDC that I was a part of, and mind you, that's the only party I held membership for is the NDC, the National Democratic Congress. I don't hold any membership for the NNP, nor TGM, nor anybody. I see y'all get a clip with TGM and showing it. Come on, let's go. Now, when I speak on the behalf of the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and the PT Martinique. The ones who, for some reason or the other, are afraid to speak and to inform and educate the ones of you who are not aware of the happenings here on our tri-island state, in our tri-island state. My friends, knowledge is power. And once you have the knowledge, you then have the power to make up your minds, to make your own decisions as you exercise your rights to vote in the next general election. And for the thousands of you who can't thank me enough for empowering you, I say you are most welcome. Therefore, my friends, whether it's TGM of 2022, of which I wasn't ashamed of endorsing, or wasn't ashamed to distance myself from them publicly on national television, or the New National Party led by political leader Emmeline Pear, it is my right to associate according to our supreme laws. Now, as a fact, the only party, political party, I held membership for is the only party, the National Democratic Congress, the NDC, of which I resigned in March of 2018, right after the 2018 general elections, which was held on March 13th, 2018. The result was a victory for the New National Party, the incumbent Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Dr. Keith Mitchell, winning his 5th term in office and winning all 15 seats in the House of Representatives. And then that was his third 15 seats, winning all seats, landslide. At the time, I was the deputy chairman of the NDC, a role I had in name on paper, and that was it. That was it. There was one time I was asked to chair an executive meeting when the chairman was not present. And that's the only thing I did as deputy chairman of the NDC. That's it. I was president of the Women's Arm, a role, according to the constitution of the NDC, is separate and apart, is independent of the convention of the party. In other words, the Women's Arm held their own convention. We were not, when they had a convention and they named all other offices, we were separate from that, right? We held our own convention and had our full executive slate. A position I held for 7 years. A position with yours truly at the helm. Fought for and protected the NDC brand. And here is a fact. If it wasn't for the Women's Arm, led by yours truly, of the NDC, today, the narrative, no pun intended, would have been an entirely different one. So all you Johnny come lately and the lazy lumps of cold who all of a sudden is the face of the NDC. How pathetic, actually. You, all of you, the bags of coals dust rather, and the bags of air, come to the front of the class. I have a history lesson for you. Now, I was a loyal member of the NDC. As a card-bearing member, I paid my dues. I didn't wait for a convention or a general council to be financial. When the branch had to scrape up all the little funds and pay for some of you so you can attend the general council or you can attend the convention and be able to vote. I paid my dues annually, in full. Just a few of us did. Just a few of us did. I supported my party in many ways, some of which none of you, and I mean none of you, even today, would have done or will do for your so-called party. But I'm not a hypocrite, and I do not support blindly. My duty is to empower the people of Grenada. And so after the 2013 election, held on the 19th of February 2013, the result, a landslide victory for the opposition, New National Party, the NNP, winning all 15 seats. I was asked by the party to host the NDC Heartbeat program. I knew nothing about radio. But since after the beating NNP put on us, There were very few of us left standing. All Zandoli took their holes. I gave it a shot. The first Sunday I went into that studio, I was nervous, literally trembling. It came through in my voice after some people said to me, you did good, but what happened? You was nervous? I mean, no, the air condition was cold and I wasn't appropriately dressed. I lied. I was embarrassed because I was scared. That's something I never did. I didn't know what I was doing really, right? But of course, in time, I got the hang of it. I gave it a shot and the rest was history. Yes, I did. Every Sunday religiously, I went into the We FM radio studio and hosted the NDC Heartbeat program. Almost like I am doing now for Simon Says weekly on Thursdays. The clear difference though, or differences rather, I hosted Heartbeat for the political party, the NDC. And you know what's funny? I never got a cent, a penny from the NDC. And I had to travel to the studio on a Sundays. Somebody asked me if they could sponsor a gallon of gas, the party, or no member, or no friend of the party. Today, I'm sitting in the corner of my living room and I'm being accused of hosting for NNP and being paid by NNP and accused by the NDC, who never gave me a penny. As I said, I had to transport it. I had to take myself from home to the studio back and forth or wherever I was going after, because sometimes I left from the studio and went to the country wherever the meetings were held. Didn't even have time to cook a Sunday meal. Nobody asked a question. Not one soul from the leader, prime minister, members of the executive, deputy leader. Nobody asked a question. Come in. I hosted the Heartbeat program for the NDC. While Simon Says is independent of any political party. Of course, when you do a podcast like this, a political podcast, it's obvious the party that's in office is who's going to get the blows. Sometimes you might reference to what the former administration did, but it's forwardly moving. And so the NDC, they're the ones in office. They're the ones that are going to get the blows. When I hosted for NDC, the Heartbeat, NNP got the blows because NNP was in office. And there was no holds barred. Just as now, no holds barred. Secondly, NDC Heartbeat program, and I'm embarrassed to say it, but I'll say it, was more of a propaganda program. A lot of the time, spoken without facts. They tell me this, and we're going to, are you in a circle where you hear this happening, or you see it in the news, or you see it somewhere? Not factual. And it was spoken. And I would speak about it on the Heartbeat program. And guess what? I was never, that I know of, called names, animal names, and referred to derogatory by the NNP. As a matter of fact, the NNP hired me to train young people in cosmetology. Because I am one of the best, if not the damn best, on island. Right? They hired me. My party, NDC, when they were in office between 2008 and 2013, never once gave me a job to train young people in cosmetology, but we'll come to that a little later. So when I did NDC Heartbeat program, it was nothing about going and do research and finding the facts and deal with it. We spoke without facts, like Gregory Bowen owning the Grenada Postal Corporation. Up until the 2022 general elections on platform, it was said that Gregory Bowen owned the Postal Corporation. NDC won the elections. We're still waiting. I've asked, several other persons have asked, who owns the Postal Corporation? Because NDC can place their surrogates or have placed their surrogates in the Postal Corporation. Gregory Bowen Postal Corporation, all your hiring people. Managing Director, my good friend Randall. Gregory Bowen, the hire Randall. Right? I pushed that narrative as well on that beat program. I'll give you another one. The infamous Fall Farm and the blaming of the NNP for its demise. Up to today, it don't matter what you talk about, somebody or bodies supporting or defending the NDC will bring up the Fall Farm and the shrimp farm as well. But the first thing, and what about the shrimp farm? Not a feather, the Fall Farm. Now, I'm going to play you a clip. It's a bit long, but it's important for you to hear. I myself was in shock when I heard that clip a while back. So I'm going to share it with you, my friends. Mr. Batiste, the mastermind behind the Fall Farm, in a press conference, sitting next to him, his counsel. But here's Mr. Batiste.
I thank everyone for being here, especially the press, so that we can discuss events of the poultry project for St. Max. I have here a written statement which I'd like to read, and we can have some questions and comments afterwards. My legal advisor and attorney, Mr. Cardington Hood, is here also to assist in the legal issues. So I'll read the statement. The project entailed 15 acres of land, which was allocated to sell in the Bocage area in St. Max. Cell continued to occupy that land and placed personnel equipment and erected a small house on that land. And we have also done a lot of infrastructure in terms of landscaping to prepare the site for the project. Grenada Broilers Inc. was incorporated in April 2003 to establish or to do the same project. Between 2002 and 2004, Cell was a minority shareholder with GBI, government owning 75% and Cell 25%. GBI was successful in the tender process and signed an agreement for the procurement of equipment for the production operation of the project based on World Bank standards. 2003, Government of Grenada allocated $2 million of public funds to start the project. 1.2 million was used for equipment, past outgoings, travel, wages, salaries, consultant fees, up to then when the project was put on hold after Ivan 2004. I want to add quickly here that after Ivan, Dr. Antoine did his best to see how we could source financing for that project. Unfortunately, we know what happened then in terms of economic squeeze. Thereafter, the loan agreement negotiated with Exim Bank in the USA, and Dr. Patrick Antoine was the lead person doing that. Loans condition on government remaining in good condition with Exim Bank facility. An auxiliary loan was negotiated between government and RBTT as part of a broader loan being negotiated. On account of Hurricane Ivan and Grenada's position with Exim Bank, neither of these two loans were drawn, and accordingly, the additional funding for the project became unavailable. So hence, in 2004, the project was put on hold. As a minority shareholder, I was extremely disappointed at this development. The lack of financing had brought the project to a halt. It left me in a very vulnerable position based on the fact that I had invested almost everything I had in that project. In fact, I've lost 2 pieces of my property. In 2006, I was left to believe that the new NDC government will immediately implement the project, so I enrolled in the ranks of the NDC and pursue the objective. Let me say here quite clearly, this is not about NDC or NMP, because I was the chairman of the NDC for 3 consecutive years, 2 before the election, 1 after the election. I was a campaign manager for the NDC during the 2008 election. In fact, I blasted NMP about the project on the platform. So it's not about NMP or supporting NMP, because I was in the bowels of the NDC. I was a member of the executive. The manifesto of the NDC of 2008 election regarding the St. Mark's constituency also contains a statement about the intention of that project. We were told that they will do it. The subsequent allegation of wrongdoing which I allowed to circulate regarding the operation of the project leveled at Dr. Patrick Antoine, certain members of the board of directors and against NMP administration were untrue and unfounded and unfortunate, because there's something that was said that was not right. I unequivocally and unconditionally apologize for any hurt that was done to him, because I think that he did a good job. It is deeply regrettable too that I had not drawn the attention to the media and the public of the contents of the audit report by the Auditor General Department and into the financial operation of the project, which made it clear that there was absolutely no impropriety with respect to the financial operation of the project. That report is available. It is a public document. Events since then had led me to understand that while the outcome was less than I would have desired, the NMP administration during the period of 2002 to 2004 had operated in me in an honest and transparent manner. In fact, I think they have treated CEL far better than the NDC government. CEL prepared a business plan and held discussion with the Ministry of Finance as directed by Cabinet in 2008. In July 2009, CEL was advised by letter from Michael Church, the then Minister of State in the Ministry of Finance, that Cabinet had approved the list of 31 acres of land at Bocage and Max and several other exemptions and waiver for the project. Let me say this. In 2001, 2002, we had 15 acres that was allocated for the project by the NMP government. In 2008, I reapplied to reinstate the project, and I asked for additional lands. The NDC government added 16 more acres of land to the project site, hence the reason why we have 31 acres. But previously, originally it was 15, so hence the reason why we had 31 acres of land. There was much delay in the interim, and in the meeting held on the at the office of Panel Foster, that is PKF, that is down at Granance, that is Mr. I will call his name, Henry Joseph's office, on May 27, 2011, at which government of Grenada was represented by Mr. Chris de Riggs and also Henry Joseph, because he is one of the government advisors. Government expressed an interest in partnering with CEL for the implementation of the project. I must also hasten to add that even before that, the Minister of Finance, that is the Honorable Nazim Bok, he actually called us into a meeting and told us that government has the money to do the project. Therefore, government is willing to take the majority share in the project and to do the project, and CEL will not be marginalized. CEL will play an active part and a very important role with them. I'll go on. It was decided that a new company will be incorporated to overtake the investment, and CEL was given the assurance that it will not be pushed aside. Unfortunately, my good ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Joseph, in his wisdom, thought it was wise to give CEL 7% shares and give the government 93%, which I bluntly refused to this day. In the meantime, the lease document for the 31 acres of land were prepared by the legal department of the government. It was done in 2010. That document was kept in the Ministry of Lands for 1 year, from 2010 to 2011, before it was given to CEL. It was given to CEL in January 2011. My lawyer at that time, Mr. Lloyd Noel, I signed and returned that document to the Ministry of Lands. To date, we haven't had no response from them. So in essence, the Ministry of Lands have in their possession a signed document for a lease for that said land to Sunset Enterprise Limited. CEL continued to seek partners and investors for the project and had attracted the investors of several investors, and I have documents. Not only that, we brought in suppliers of equipment and services, and I have the books I can show you. We brought in people from Israel, Agotop. They sent down one of the chief in person there to speak to CEL in Grenada. We met with the government people and you outlined everything. We have a letter where Agotop was willing to put in 85% of the cost of all the equipment. All they need government support. The Minister of Finance got a letter, he never responded. We brought in people from Colombia and Mexico through a company called ITA. They was also willing to put in 25% of the cost of the equipment as equity in the project, and another 25% as a soft loan to assist us. To date, that has not materialized. Government just pushed it aside because they were pursuing their own agenda with their own company. So while they were talking to us, they had CEL being mamagai and just fooling us around. In October 2012, Mr. Richard Nixon, Grenada's diplomatic agent, informed CEL that due to concern over the closure of Parliament and the manner in which the Lewis Hamilton issue was treated, the investors were very concerned about doing business in Grenada. Now, these are the same people that I contacted in China, and they said, at this time, no way, we ain't going to do no business in Grenada. By letter of December 13, 2012, from the PS of Lands, CEL was informed that government of Grenada had decided to discontinue negotiation for the lease of the land. The problem here is we were not negotiating anymore. We had already passed that stage. We had a signed agreement, a signed offer that we gave to them, which they didn't even respond to. Mr. Noel responded on January 8, 2013, pointing out that the matter of lease of the land had already been settled since the draft lease had already been signed. Right. Documents in the company register shows that PFGL is a private company incorporated by Henry Joseph and having two directors, Henry Joseph and Jude Bernard. And let me add here quickly, very quickly, it's very important. Henry Joseph, who is now the Ayatollah of that company, a one-man quorum. I went to that man's office in 2009 down at Granance, inviting him to come in to sell as an advisor, a financial advisor to the company. He is now the one in charge. He's now the one in control. I went to Jude Bernard's home and invited him to come and assist me in the marketing area of the company. He's now on the side with Mr. Henry Joseph in that said company. In fact, Henry Joseph got in 2011, around September, October, $500,000 from the Petrocarib funds. That money was put into a bank, a local bank, Bank of Nova Scotia. And I'm mentioning that because the people who are signatories to that account are Mr. Henry Joseph, Mr. Jude Bernard, and Mr. Fitzroy James. These are the three persons who are signatories to that account. And they could do whatever they want with the money. Now, it's very unfortunate that this project was conceptualized, was developed, and has been promoted by CEL since 2001. I, your humble servant, Curtis Battis, is the person who started this project. Today, on all the political platforms, everybody talking about the poultry project for St. Mark's, but no one is giving any credit to CEL or to me about that project. It's very ironic, it's very sad, it's very heartless that the people who vested in that project, over 30 persons, local persons, have put in their hard-earned money to make this project a reality to date. And we are just been pushed aside. And Joseph and his cohorts are the ones in full control with the support and permission of the NDC government.
Now, CEL, you've heard him speaking about CEL, that's SEL, is Sunset Enterprise Limited. That's the name of the company that Mr. Batiste formed to accommodate the full farm, right? Now, what Mr. Batiste is speaking of there is the infamous full farm that from time the NNP got a blame for. Any one of you has been following the politics, not just now where it's all on in social media. Even before, you would have heard of this full farm, the St. Mark full farm, the saga, right? And right there, right after that came the NNP, or before, sometimes, the NNP and the full farm. You heard Mr. Batiste. You heard him saying that he was the chairman of the St. Mark's branch for several years. 3 times, I think he said he was. And a member of the national executive of the NDC. Once you're a chairman of the branch, then you automatically becomes a member of the executive of the NDC. You heard him. He was an NDC. And he brought his thing to the NDC. You heard him, right? So those of you that came to the front of the class, all you Johnny come lately, and the ones who've been there, but is malicious and hypocrite, I hope you've heard Mr. Curtis Batiste. Any issue any issue mentioned that involves NDC corruption, their supporters, their defenders, first thing they bring up, the full farm. And lately added to it, the shrimp farm. Well, I did a whole program on the shrimp farm for you guys and showed you that except for probably not doing enough due diligence, the NNP is not responsible or was not responsible. And government is a continuum. And the evidence, because the NNP started an investigation to try and find the gentleman and their monies. It's in the Attorney General's office as we speak. Ask Cindy's daughter why the NDC did not continue to pursue the investigation on the shrimp farm. Just like they close off the Kawana Bay and give the man with money when they could have gone to court and more than likely won the case because the gentleman was taking our money and put towards a company he had outside of Grenada. And the NNP administration cut the funding. So he decided he was taking the NNP, the government of Grenada, to court. Our prime minister was involved with the gentleman legally, came into office and decided to give the man $22 million of our money to go with, saying they save us. All now we're paying monies. We have to pay people, investors of Kawana Bay. But that's another story for another time. Although we've dealt with it here on Simon Says several times. So, Mr. Batiste, the original owner of the Full Farm, the mastermind behind the Full Farm, he cleared that up for you guys. We had the tape to show, and the tapes don't lie. Mr. Curtis Batiste was on there in that press conference with Counsel Cachiton Hood. Now, I'll put up the entire press conference on our channel on YouTube because we can't carry it all. Mr. Batiste, I had to let you hear Mr. Batiste's story with the NDC and this Full Farm. But here is a snippet of what Mr. Hood, Attorney Cachiton Hood, had to say.
So I have serious questions regarding the legality of the purported transfer of the title to Poultry Farm Grenada Limited. And I'm so advising my clients, Sunset Enterprises Limited, in view of the fact that there was this lease that was signed based on an offer by the government of Grenada. I have serious problems with the authenticity and the genuineness of that inland revenue document with respect to the valuation of the land and the ownership, and the fact that there seems to be a backdated valuation going back to about 11 years. My question is, what is the purpose of that? And we're talking about a hotly debated topic in Parliament. And these signal actions are taken when Parliament is prorogued. I also have the email correspondence here from Mr. Richard Nixon, who is saying that the Chinese investors are not interested because of the prorogation of Parliament. They call it a stalemate in government and not having Parliament. And they are concerned about what transpired with another investor, Louis Hamilton Group. And apparently they're saying to our diplomatic envoy, it is setting a precedence that oncoming government can reverse the deal of a previous government. So they are concerned. And Sunset Enterprises Limited is saying that they were well on the way to finding financing for the project with joint ventures when this unfortunate prorogation took place. And while this prorogation is taking place, the land is swiped from under their feet and given to somebody else, where quite possibly one person can decide the fate of the entire company and the land. Those are our concerns. This is the angle in which we will be taking, and it matters not, as far as I'm concerned, what happens on the 19th. My client, Sunset Enterprises Limited, I believe, will have a valid cause of action to challenge whatever title, whatever ownership that's purported to be exercised over the land at Bocage.
Now, that prorogation of Parliament that the attorney Cajetan had spoke of there was a prorogation of the Parliament by the NDC in 2013, early 2013. In 2013, it wouldn't be early, it probably was in March or February or March. But anyway, it was the prorogation of the Parliament by the NDC when they got wind that they were going to, the second no confidence motion, a second no confidence motion was going to be called against them in the Parliament. Now, this no confidence motion was going to be called by a member or a former member, or was he still a member, of the NDC, right? And so when they got wind of that, and they knew that no confidence motion would have happened this time, because the first time, although Peter David and his friends were expelled, they still did not agree with the opposition, the then NNP, and voted against the no confidence motion. Michael Church, who was a backbencher then, who after Tillman Thomas demoted him, decided he's going to resign. He became a backbencher because he was the MP for St. John. And Peter David and they, by that time, well, they were gone. Even as parliamentarians, they were not supporting the NDC. And Carl Hood, who up until even after the expulsion, and so he stuck with Tillman Thomas, and after that fell out because he was told that he was being used. A long story. We're not going to get into that, but he fell out of grace with Tillman Thomas, and they got wind that they was going to use him to call a no confidence motion. Whether it was true or not, I do not know, but that was the word that the NDC got. And so they prorogued the Parliament and, of course, called the date for the next general election. When questioned on the matter, this is what Mr. Batiste had to say. Mr. Batiste, who was an executive member, I have to stress that, of the NDC, as he spoke.
Voice those concerns now because the government decided to move a different direction, or because you had plans with respect to what you just said?
Not really. I had no plans to come forward before now. I was hoping, against all hope, that common sense and good judgment will have prevailed in terms of the project being implemented. That is my main concern. The project is bringing benefit to St. Mark's. I mean, at this point in time, I have exhausted all possible effort to make the NDC government have any heart. And I mean, this is a twilight hour. So when I come now, 3 days before election, saying what I'm saying, which means I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what to do.
As I said, the entire press conference will be up on our YouTube channel. You can go there and look at it. That day should rest the Fall Farm saga in connection with the NNP, as it clearly shows that, and you heard the gentleman or the gentleman, NDC was responsible for the demise of the Fall Farm. As for the shrimp farm, it was just another tale of a crooked investor who took our monies and disappeared. Yes, under the new National Party reign in office. Yes, under the former NNP administration, led by Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell. But government is a continuum, and the files, as I said before, are at the Attorney General chambers. The investigation should have continued. Just a few of the lies told to the people by the NDC on the NNP. But that was then, and this is now. Quite contrary. Simon Says is known for its facts, of course, where facts come first. So I agreed to host the NDC Heartbeat program using my resources with no one, and I mean no one, asking or contributing towards the program. Not even a contributor towards a gallon of gas for transportation to and from studio on Sundays. I did the program religiously every Sunday for 5 years, energizing the base. The base that was totally demoralized after the beating we took after the 2013 election, 15-0. The only Sunday I missed was when it fell on Christmas Day. I did the program on Easter Sunday, Carnival Sunday, on my birthday. I was in the studio on my anniversary. I did the program from St. Vincent. I went to St. Vincent with my daughter. She had to perform in St. Vincent. I did the program from the Airbnb we stayed at. From Florida, when I was there on business, I did the program. I did the program in Carriacou, from Carriacou, in a back room in a gentleman called Tall Boy house. Closed up, no air conditioner, no fan, dripping in sweat, blinding my eyes. I did the NDC Heartbeat program. That's how loyal and dedicated I was. Not that I can speak to that, but any of you, the fake NDC ones and the real ones that are still there, or should I say the so-called real ones, because what I see happening, I cannot, for the likes of me, say that you guys are the same NDC people that I sat around table with. During that same period in 2013 to 2018, for 5 years, I gave NDC a place to rest their head. NDC was owing rent on the space they rented up at Tempe St. George's for their headquarters. And the then landlord chained and padlocked his door so they couldn't enter. They were put out in the streets. I, Jennifer Simon Rapier, again, picked the NDC up off the streets in Tempe and gave them a place to stay. A space I rented before for $1,600 a month. At the time, though, I was finishing up a cosmetology class in training. I moved the class downstairs to my salon and gave the space to the NDC for their headquarters. Before that, the branch of the town of St. George, it started with Franca Bernardine. And the late Brian Griffith, my good friend, may his soul rest in peace, came to me and asked me if they could use the space when they have meetings, the branch, the tongue of branch. I gave them the space in the afternoons, whenever they wanted, whatever they wanted to use it for, they used it. But it had up all my cosmetology posters and all of that there, and they used it. But when it came to giving it to the party, I couldn't have them. And every time you had to pick up the tables and the desk and the chairs and put it back down. And I removed my students from upstairs, brought them downstairs to the salon to finish up their training, and gave the space to the NDC with furniture, with the furniture. For the first few months, I even paid the water and the electricity bill as I was accustomed paying it. And then one day the treasurer, my good friend Mulbaya, said to me, what about the electricity bill and water bill for them? And I said, well, I've been paying it. Nobody asked before that. And she said, no, they can't do that. And she took over the electricity bill. I don't know if she paid it out of her own pocket, because she did at times paid bills for the NDC out of her own pocket because they didn't have money. She was the treasurer and everybody went to her. And I continued paying the water bill. And they paid not 1 cent for 5 years for that space they had for their headquarters. I had an issue. We had a water issue at one point from coming down from Lucas Street. And it caused, I had to take another loan to do it. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Mud, we had to dig up thing around. Not one of these individuals asked me one day, what's going on? Can we contribute? They're climbing over the mud and they're going upstairs. Not only that, I had my salon downstairs, and it's not that I'm not a good hairdresser or cosmetologist, so to speak. I was, and as I said before, maybe the best on the island. Not one of these women, the Franca, the Claudette, the, Cynthia daughter, none would trips upstairs to a meeting and not even say, let us come one day and get a shampoo done downstairs. Yes, you have your hairdresser, and I'm not saying leave your hairdresser to come to me, but you could support. That's what loving people do. They support each other. Not once. I had, and I must say, and David from St. Patrick, well, she used to use me before, so she continued using me. Not one of the others say, let me come for a shampoo. Not their wives, not their girlfriends. Did they send and say, well, let's patronize because we're using a space here for free? Not one. They're not nice. They're not loving. They're not kind-hearted. And as you heard Mr. Batiste say, they have no heart. Right. So I did the electricity bill. Now count, I want you to do the math. Do the math. $1,600 per month for 5 years. For 5 years, 4 months. Because 4 months after the election, when I said right after the election, I gave them a letter asking them if they would like to remain, they would have to pay rent. And it could be negotiated because I wasn't going to be rough on them, even though I had resigned from the party. Months going and nothing, I got no response, I think. So I spoke to the general secretary at the time. I said, listen, you guys have my keys. You guys would have to be paying the rent if you not, or leave. Well, in a hustle, they went upstairs and pulled down whatever they had on the walls. They went with flakes of concrete. And they left the space with garbage, unpainted, with the flakes, holes in the walls, that I couldn't rent it out. I couldn't put it up for rent immediately. After I wrote a nasty email and copied it to most of the executives, Larry Barry came to me. He said he's going to get a couple of his friends and they're going to do the filling and the painting and cleaning up of the space for me, which they did. Larry Barry, he did it outside of the party and the executive. Outside. So we have 1,600, per month for 5 years, 5 years and 4 months. So that is 16 months by $1,600 equal to $25,600. Multiply that by 5 years, $128,000. My contribution to nation building. Also, I thought. So instead of paying me a little rent, and that doesn't include the electricity bill that I paid, instead of paying me a little rent, they went and paid somebody else rent, saying they renting to purchase or some crap like that. Up to today, NDC don't have a headquarters. They have not purchased anything. They can't purchase anything, right? And they left. That's okay. They left my space. Which one of you today, who are benefiting tremendously from the NDC? Forget them like a plow, talking, and then getting nothing. Hungry and starving. Which one of you is prepared to do what I did for your so-called party? In fact, where is the NDC headquarters today? Where is the NDC headquarters? Do you have one? Since 2022, where is the NDC headquarters? Yeah? Is your leader, Deacon Mitchell, prepared to give you his office space on St. John Street to house your headquarters? In fact, instead of giving you, he collected after the election, while he awaited the renovations of the mansion on the hill in Montrouge to complete, while he waited on the renovations to be completed. He remained in his apartment on St. John's Street where he lived before. And the government of Grenada paid his rent for 7 months while he waited. He then moved into the mansion on the hill where we are paying $20,400 a month rent. Look at the mansion. If you get a snippet of the mansion on the ridge that they move off all them Guankai people. Can't have these shacks close to the Prime Minister's mansion. The people are paying $20,400 for that view that you see there. Or do you think Ms. St. Bernard will give the NDC a space in her multi-million-dollar building on Church Street for free to house the party headquarters? Or Orlando Romaine, will he give up one of his many properties he acquired over the past 4 years to house the NDC headquarters? Executive members, ordinary members, members of the Women's Arm, which I carried as president for 7 years. In fact, the NDC, the women's arm was able to give the party monies towards the election when they was crumbling. We were able to give the party monies to help with their campaign. They never asked the women's arm what we selling. I was president of that arm for 7 years. No supporter, no defender. None of you. Y'all don't even pay dues. And yes, I'm speaking to you, Ali Material. You don't even pay dues. Which one of the technocrats, now that are collecting big money as advisors, as chairman of boards, some of them and several boards collecting, which one of them would turn around and give to the NDC? Which one? Put your hands up. Which one of you are prepared to do what I did for the NDC? And up to today, without an ounce of gratitude, I never got a thank you. Officially, thank you. Well, not official and not unofficial. None from anyone in the leadership and the executive of the NDC. Not one of them said thank you. Even after I sent in my resignation, not one said thank you. I did get a letter from Mr. Book trying to convince me not to leave. I wonder if I had succumbed to the invitation, not once, not twice, but 3 times by a senior member of the cabinet, the executive parliamentary representative of the NDC. Now, as I'm speaking about now, 2022 now to now, asking me to come back home. They need me. Come, let's talk. Even want them offered to take me to meet the prime minister, the leader of their party. I wonder if I had succumbed to that. What you, the bullies and the defenders, who does nothing for the party, nothing, absolutely nothing, but bully people, what you all would have said. As recent as 5 days ago, I was called and asked. Yes. And don't do like DPM and say I lie. I ain't lie. And DPM know I didn't lie too, but that's another story. 5 days ago. Now, if the derogatory name calling, if that would have stopped, would it have stopped? And would it have made a difference? All of a sudden, I would again be Sister Jenny, whom they loved so much and cherished so much. That's the thing about black and white print. It's permanently there. I appreciate you, Randall Robinson, for your statement on Facebook, and I'll read it to you. Jennifer Simon, I want to make it abundantly clear to you and everyone else that I am never going to banter with you over politics. Firstly, out of respect for the memory of the bond you shared with my mother, and that was a great bond. I miss it up to today. And secondly, because you had an amazing run as a solid member of the NDC. You are a force of nature leading the Women's Arm and hosting the Sunday Heartbeat program. And I, for one, will never forget that. If others choose to forget, that's on them. You have chosen another path now, and that's your prerogative. I wish you nothing but the best. And I mean every word of what I said. Have an awesome day. And I believe that he means what he said. But yet, I've never seen you, Randall, or any one of the others, the hierarchy of the party, chastise the ones who are doing it. You know, they said the upholder is worse than the thief. None of you. I sat amongst Tillman Thomas, Nazim Burke, Joseph Andel, Adrian Persuader Thomas, Glenn Noel, Philip Alexander, Vincent Roberts, Faith Thompson, Patrick Simmons, Ray Roberts, Sister Joan Pessel, and other members of the executive of the Women's Arm / Prayer Warriors like Elizabeth Forsyth and Hilary Alexander, who is now the president of the Women's Arm. In fact, Ms. Alexander and others like Ray Roberts are some of the ones making derogatory statements on Facebook about me. Instead, I have been bullied and referred to every animal in the zoo. The latest one, a pig. Circled my beautiful face at the event in New York. I did look good. I must be taking about 200 photos. First, people wanted to take out photos with me. I was called a pig. And the caption said, if you could put makeup on a pig, it's still a pig. Yeah, that's what I was referenced to. All because I bring the issues and the facts surrounding them to you, the people. They never tried to discuss or debate the issues. Just name calling. So what is that saying to you, the people? If I say to you, your kettle is black, and you believe or you know your kettle to be red, instead of saying to me, go take out that wig, or you look like a clown, or I'm a pig, I'm a horse, I'm a donkey, I'm a cow, I'm crazy, shouldn't you maybe ask if I'm colorblind? If I can't see your kettle is red and not black, let's debate. And I could come back and say, are you serious? This kettle is black like hell. No debating. No debating. But since they can't counteract my statements, my pronouncements, the facts that I bring to you, the next best thing is to try and hurl insults at me. I say try, because I'm sure you all have realized by now it ain't working. In fact, what it's doing is adding fuel to the fire. Let us discuss Project Polaris. And who is Grenada asset bank. Why they were really used to purchase the 84 acres of lands to build a hospital that only needs 10 acres of lands. To build a hospital, they told us, you told us that you only need 10 acres. So who owns the 74 acres of land, the balance? And what are we going to do with the balance, the 74 acres of land? Tell us why Calco is putting up an asphalt plant and a concrete batchment plant in the area where the hospital is supposed to be built. If the hospital is building soon, and according to Ms. St. Bernard, it was supposed to be built right after the groundbreaking. Construction was supposed to start. That's the sponsor/lead of the project. Construction was to begin right after the sword turning, according to the project lead, Ms. Andrea St. Bernard.
I'm Andrea St. Bernard, project sponsor for Project Polaris. So we're here. Tell us where we are. We're here at the Project Polaris site. This is the old Calavini estate right up the eastern main road. And we are preparing the site for the upcoming groundbreaking ceremony. We are just beside the exact footprint of where the new hospital will be built.
Okay, so tell us, what can we expect on Friday?
Friday will be a wonderful celebration for Grenada that marks the historic moment when we embark on the construction of our new hospital and then ultimately our new medical city. Friday is a moment for all Grenadians to participate in. This is a moment that will mark a transformation as we enter a new era for healthcare in Grenada. So the groundbreaking ceremony is really, as I said, to mark the beginning of construction of the new hospital. We will have our Prime Minister, ministers, all business community persons, dignitaries. We've invited all of Grenada to come and participate with us. And we're really looking forward to an exciting event.
What stage is the project currently at?
The project itself has been in planning for the last couple years. We've spent quite a bit of time working to get the right partners so that we can put the right plans together. We are now in the design phase. We are preparing the property to start our early works, and then we would be able to move into main work. So we're really now moving into the phase of actual construction for the new hospital.
The groundbreaking marked the beginning of construction. We are actually now moving into the phase of construction. Folks, the groundbreaking took place on Friday, the 27th of March, 2026, 3.5 months ago. To date, not a brick laid. In fact, only the area where Calco is organizing to put their asphalt plant. Things are happening there. That's where it's happening, right adjacent to that. Part of the hospital area. Bushes are up to my neck. Let's talk about Project 500. That project changed from 500 to 17. Where we were supposed to get 500 houses annually, according to Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell. Well, he was the leader of the opposition then.
The National Democratic Congress has outlined the party's plans to address the country's housing issue if given the chance to govern Grenada following the June 23rd general elections. Political leader of the NDC, Deacon Mitchell, says under his leadership, Housing materials will not be dropped off for people in need to be left without being used by the homeowner because the individual or family does not have the capacity to get the repairs done. He said instead people will be assisted with home repairs, especially the elderly and disabled.
Starting with the homes of our retirees, the homes of our senior citizens, and the homes of our disadvantaged persons, particularly persons who may be physically or mentally challenged. The next category of persons will then be particularly single mothers who are raising children on their own.
The NDC Mitchell said their priority will be increasing and improving the housing stock.
We are aiming to construct 2,500 homes. The homes will be made available for sale. The price ranges will vary depending on the size of the houses. The plans for the houses will be designed in such a way that they can be scaled up.
No, the plan was to build 2,500 homes. 2,500 homes divided by 5, which is 5 years in office, gives you 500 homes a year, right? I mean, I've other clips where they spoke about it, but we're not dealing with that really directly now, so we'll move on. He said if they're given a chance to lead, they would build us 2,500 homes. You've led for 4 years. You've led for 4 years, so now we should probably have about 2,000 homes, right? We have 17. We didn't even have 500, you know. We have 17 homes for this project, 500. Then the now project sponsor, Top for the Boys, Mr. Randy Dolan, was given this position, a project sponsor for Project 500, all at a sudden, as a real Grenadian, all at a sudden, because Project 500 was from inception. Only 2025, this position came up, Project 500, after we spent a set of money on him for Carriacou, for the houses in Carriacou, right? That's left to rotten in the bushes. 5 of them, and the rest we don't know in which container, the prefab houses, in which container they're stored in what part of the island. Wasted resources, right? He, Mr. Dolan, is telling us, or told us, when asked about the rest of the houses, he said they only promised 500, period.
Acknowledge, Mr. Dolan, that the laudable goal of building 500 houses a year, that was just not realistic.
It wasn't 500 houses per year, it was 500 houses. It was initial term.
Just 500 houses, period.
It was, that's the point. It was a starting period, a pilot to build, to get to 500 homes, and then to scale that.
We are aiming to construct 2,500 homes. The homes will be made available for sale.
You heard him, trying to lie. The thing is, though, even if you said it was 500, period, where are these houses? All you've done was 17. You took 4 years to build 17 houses. And according to the estimates of revenue and expenditure of 2026, you spent in excess of $17 million on Project 500. So are we saying that each one of these Project 500, 17 houses cost $1 million? And is that why people can't afford to purchase it, or you're going to lose because you have it from, I think it's 250,000 up to $500,000? Where's the low income people that's supposed to purchase these houses? In excess of 17 million, just as how 22 million was spent on Project Polaris, and we can't figure it out. Just so. 17 million. That's what you need to speak about, Ali Matura and the rest of you, blah, 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 and calling people names and trying to bully people. That's what you all need to talk about. How could we have spent in excess of $17 million on Project 500 when we only built 17 houses? So are we saying that each one of these houses cost the government $1 million? Is that what we're saying? Let us speak about the Ministry of MIT and the Build Back Better project and the corruption that has plagued that project and that ministry of MIT under Andy Williams. Let us talk about Minister Andy Williams and the bribery of $115,000. 100 in hand and 15,000 for the renovations of his pickup truck. In exchange for the Cliff Road project contract. Let us talk about that. Bribery is a crime on the books. Let's talk about the Bronx check. $200,000 and counting in Bronx check from one company. And there are more. They want to make 28,000. The hundreds of thousands he's owing for rent on the carriage. Those the Bronx checkers, those are crimes. That's what we need to talk about. Not who look like a pig and who look like a cow and who look like a goat and who crazy and who have afro and who have bush on their head and who the color of a lipstick. Big men. Big men. Also, I thought. I would describe them as pussies, really. Talking about my lipstick and my makeup. I do a whole program bringing facts to you. 2 hours, 2 hours and a half, sometimes even 3 hours. And all you come away from that program is my lipstick, my makeup, my hair. I'm a cosmetologist. If you don't see it reflecting, too bad for you. I'm a cosmetologist. Go and look up the word and the meaning. Let us talk about the corruption in the National Lottery Authority, gravel and concrete, the destruction of the Grenada Development Bank after 61 years, and the destruction, well on its way, of TAMCC after 38 years. Hell, let's chat about the destruction of our education system. I hope the military computers are on its way already for the new year, the new term, for the Form 1s at least. We ain't hearing nothing about that. Computers that the students won't even use. And they don't even have hard copies to back it up. Because the bookstores were not given the book list, because we have e-books. Big talk, e-books on the computers. All a failure. Let us talk about the wastage of our financial resources by this Deacon Mitchell-led administration. The excessive traveling of Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell and his cabinet ministers. We don't talk about them, you know. They are on a plane every Monday morning as well. Chairmen of boards. Every time you turn. Yeah? Them and the entourage. Let us talk about the weak performances of our ministerial departments. Our politically exposed RGPF and associated bodies, His Majesty's prisons, the FIU, the Integrity Commission. Let us talk about Grenlec that are bleeding the citizens whose bills are tripling, can't afford to pay their bills, they get disconnected and the disconnected charge is added on. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the high cost of living and the rise in inflation. That persons can't afford to feed their children. That businesses are struggling to make it. Small and large alike. Let us talk about where we are to get to today in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. And how families are barely surviving. And how parents are feeling it in their gut when they can't put food on the table for their kids. And even when they go to school and was able to get a meal for $1, you all say it's free, and they can't get a meal at all. How about that? That's what we need to talk about. A government, an administration that have no clue of governing. A government who doesn't seem to understand their role as government. And we say, oh, cost of living going up everywhere. Oh, inflation is going up everywhere. But when you look at the news in Barbados and Antigua and St. Kitts and St. Lucia and St. Vincent, the governments there are creating cushions to help their citizens to make it through. We had cushions, only remove it. We had cushion in Grenlec. The former administration had removed all the taxes, the local taxes on electricity, and a 25% deduction on the non-fuel charges. You all put it back, and since then add three times raise in the price. Let us talk about an administration who do not understand the meaning of accountability and transparency and is not capable of governing this country. The Deacon Mitchell-led administration is a failed administration. Forget how I look, my hair, the color of my lips, my makeup. I feel like a dashing leaf in the rain. Water off my back. They say I'm crazy. They call me lunatic. They call me, you just name it. You have a certified member in your cabinet and you're calling me crazy? They say I'm ugly. Look around inside your cabinet and look at the meaning of the word ugly. If it's a word, I don't know. Because beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, right? The thing is, I am happy with me because the Lord God had made me in his own image and likeness, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it. You know what is mind-boggling? The fact that the NDC, that Deacon Mitchell and his cabinet/executives, the ones in charge, have time and time again has rewarded these bullies. Amongst them, Kemp Jones was rewarded by the Prime Minister, Deacon Mitchell, and by Tevin Andrew.
All right, so, sometimes you can be an outlier, a one-man army, and for a long time he was in the wilderness fighting the good fight by himself. Right, so he is largely responsible for a lot of the terror that happened in Greenland. That's the truth. Sometimes
make some nice for Kevin. Now, we all know We all know Kem Jones' mouth bad. But in spite of his bad mouth, say what you want. Had it not been for his persistent and committed dedication and continue of course service towards realizing this journey, we would not be here today. So Kem, this is how we do it in Carriacou and Petit Martinique. With appreciation, we present Kem Jones for his outstanding service to the public, especially to the people of Petit Martinique and Carriacou, Extension Grenada, from the NDC Carriacou and Petit Martinique constituency. Kem, boy, we love you. We thank you. And continue with boots on the ground. I will say boots on the ground. Boots on the ground. Kem, of course.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. Boy, I'm shocked. I'm in awe.
At their 4-year celebration, the first member of to be recognized and rewarded was Ali Matura, the biggest bully in social media. That's him there. There's a photo. I want you to get a good look of who Ali Matura is. Calling me names, you know. Yeah, calling me all the names, the zoo names. Here is Mr. Matura being rewarded and awarded for bullying people in social media.
To recognize some stalwart of the National Democratic Congress, some stalwart fathers. So over to you, Brother Randall.
And so, we invite to the stage our brother and comrade, Ali Matura. Come, Ali, come. We're queuing up Fred Parker. Fred Parker, are you there? Mr. Photographer, you're taking pictures? All right.
This is a guy who took our monies in the St. George Northeast branch for a printing job, banners and posters, and took our monies. Didn't give us back the money and never gave us not even half an item, not even a piece of banner or a piece of poster. Nothing. He's stealing from NDC, from one branch to the next. You try to patronize because he says he's doing printing. So instead of going and pay somebody outside, that's what camaraderie is about. That's what you do, right? So we gave him the job. This individual there. And he's been, he's a hero. He's a hero. You better look up the word stalwart. Imagine Ali Matura's name topping the list of awards with Nazim Burke and Tillman Thomas' name on that list, you know. I cry because I couldn't believe what I was hearing and seeing. A shame. So I was in New York and I chose which events I wanted to attend. Nobody paid for my ticket to go to New York. I could do what I want. I paid for my ticket. And I didn't go to New York to go to these events. I went on business. But I can choose where I want to go, even though I got the call and was invited to the NDC's town hall. Because of course they saw my photos from the event the night before. So they knew I was in New York. They want to talk to me if I could come to the town hall and we'll have a chat after, and so all kind of drama, but some, anyway, I'm not going to expose it. Right? So I choose to attend the NNP's town hall. I'll say it again. I am not an NNP. I don't hold a membership card for the NNP. Nor am I an NDC. I have resigned from that. I gave up my card since 2018. So when they say I'm more bitter because I didn't get what I wanted and whatever, I never went anywhere close to Deacon Mitchell and NDC. That was in 2022. I resigned in 2018, and since then, never went anywhere close to NDC. So what I wanted, every time I ask them that, everybody gets quiet. Tell me what I wanted. Therefore, as a Grenadian, I am free to associate with whomever I want. And I associated with the NNP. And I associate where there is love. Clock it. I'm not being biased, I'm not making up stories. It's a feeling, you know, when you feel loved. Love is a feeling. One can only speak like that when they've experienced it and have experienced both sides. Now, just a little bit of housekeeping there, as I call it, housekeeping matters. Look at Kenrick Fullerton. If you look, I put a photo up of him there with our Minister of Education, David Andrew. Big position he holds. Chairman of Planning Development Authority. We're paying to bring him down for meetings, paying to bring him home to sign documents. And we have Grenadians here that can do that. But we're trying to buy the diaspora, so let's go. I guess we paid to bring him down to campaign for David Andrew in the St. Andrew Southeast constituency. This is a guy, after winning his seat in St. Andrew Southeast for the NDC in the 2003 election, embezzled funds as an insurance broker. Uncle Tilly was informed. Of course, he had to be brought. He was a MP. He was a member of parliament. Fullerton was suspended from the party, no matter how much his friends begged to pardon him. I believe the party paid the monies to the insurance. In the 2008 general election, NDC won 11-4, and formed the government. Fullerton was given another chance. Patrick Simmons, who took the baton from him in St. Andrew Southeast, was made Minister for Sports, and Kenrick Fullerton was his advisor. in the Ministry of Sports. His name was given to the banks, as I understand it, to most of the senior members, I believe. I'm not sure if all of the members trickle down to the bottom. Their name would be given, was given in the bank just in case they needed monies from the bank, loans, whatever. And then, you know, that's a name given from the ministry. To have access to access services from the bank. Kenneth Fullerton accessed a loan from the bank, sure enough. And then his contract was up as advisor. And these things sometimes do take a little while before, if they're going to take you back or not or what, but he was there. And while he waited, I guess he was going to, it was going to be renewed because he was there. If not, he might have gotten a letter saying, well, we no longer needed your service. But he was there in the ministry, waiting on his new contract. And while that was going on, while he didn't have a contract, he tried to access another loan from the bank, but could not have gotten a letter from the ministry because he was not on, he was not a worker, so to speak. He was not, his contract was up and he was in waiting. So it was in between. The SAO at the ministry could not have given him a signed letter to take to the bank. Mr. Fullerton forged the signature of the SAO and took it to the bank. The officer at the bank who was dealing with the loan would have seen that signature umpteen times, and so found it looked a little different. He didn't quite get it right. He obviously did not do a good job with the forgery. The officer called up the SAO and questioned the letter. In truth and in fact, the SAO confirmed she never signed such a letter and asked the officer at the bank to send the letter to the ministry so she can have a look at it. The letter came. Of course, you know, she didn't sign that letter. She took the letter to the permanent secretary. And of course, the Prime Minister, Tillman Thomas, was brought in on the matter. He was informed. His words were, call the police. Now, that's the Tillman Thomas we know, right? Call the police. Let the law take its course. Fulton was called in by the PS to explain the letter. There's no explanation. You forged the lady's signature, the SAO. His contract obviously was not renewed. He was fired. Again, his friends tried to beg. It didn't hold water. And there was a court case. The case called, and his lawyer did not show intentionally, as I understand it. So until they drag it out and drag it out and drag it out, Fullerton disappeared, skipped town to Trinidad, and then migrated to the USA where he still lives. This Deacon Mitchell-led administration brought him back. He is now the chairman of the Planning Development Authority. He's now campaigning for our Minister of Education, posing. But I tell all you about the Minister of Education. Let me give all you a joke now. You know, the Prime Minister, they have this big town hall down at the Trade Center. When they just came in, they said every quarterly they'll come to us. So that was the first quarter, so 3 months after. The first one. I don't think they had many after that. And he told us about CJs and Fates and the man with the money that went into the South branch account and all the drama. Remember all of that? Yeah. And so I'm a lawyer. Sue me. And who you go sue and the thing and they were going to investigate, and we're still waiting on the cabinet conclusion, among other things. Well, Sages took in front and took them to court and won. They're also in court with Faith, but not for what they might have said about Faith, but Faith took them to court for the monies to pay the workers that they refused to pay when they came in. Well, I don't know, this case going on forever. Anyways, so apparently they did decide they're investigating Faith. And you know why? Because the company was formed in the St. Andrews Southeast area. And although Mrs. Pear was not a director or had nothing to do with the company per se, it was said that well, as a matter of fact, they call her nickname is Faith. When they're doing the investigation, they ain't seen nothing that suggests Emmeline Pear had anything to do with Faith. But what did they see? A check that was written to David Andrew for $3,000 for work done. He was a social worker. What do you call it? In the Ministry of Education, and they needed some help, Faith, and they hired him. And although that was his job at the ministry, he charged Faith $3,000, and he was paid $3,000 from Faith. And that's what they did. They didn't say coops. They didn't tell nobody. They didn't say nothing. They just, that's it. Investigation over. God don't like ugly. Let's continue. I just thought I'd give you all that joke on the side. So, this is who we have as chairman of our board, our planning board, and this is who is campaigning, here campaigning, the chairman of the board, the Planning Development Authority is on the ground in St. Andrews Southeast campaigning, out in the open. You see the photo there with David Andrew. This is the kind of system we are working with now. But then again, it seems like those are the type this Deacon Mitchell-led administration attracts. There are those sitting in the cabinet that are equally criminal, and others that are worse. The people must be aware of the type of administration we have put in office under the guise of transformation, that after 4 years, we still are waiting the transformation. A word we have heard very little of over the past 4 years. Now, it's been a while since we talked closure on Simon Says. Closure is still struggling. We're in the next rainy season, and these people are still struggling. But an incident was brought to my attention yesterday. But first, I would like you to listen to this clip.
The Prime Minister says, based on reports and assessment of damages to a house in close proximity to the project, discussion is being held to have the homeowner compensated.
It also means it is most likely that the property that has been impacted would have to be acquired by the government and compensation paid to the property owner, and he's here so that we can have access to that area to be able to make sure that the construction work continues and that there is no further risk of life or injury to property or to any person.
You heard the Prime Minister, Mitchell, on compensation to compensate Mr. Kent Charles, the owner of the property. Big talk. The government will just have to acquire it and we pay compensation to the owner and yeah, you know. We rich, we have money in there, we'll just pay. Yeah. Information reaching me yesterday, Thursday the 16th of July, 2026. So far, Mr. Kent Charles has not received one black cent or a red one. Nothing from the government of Grenada. And not only for his house, but for lands the government had encroached on. The land where the wall was and is being built, that lands belong to Mr. Kent Charles as well. Now, Simon says, I got the information. Of course, I did my investigation. And sure enough, the information I received was confirmed as truthful. Yesterday, the 16th of July, 2026, Mr. Kent Charles, the owner of the property and the lands where the wall is being built, asked the operator that was doing the backfilling to remove the machine from his property. Well, the machine and himself from his property. So the operator had to stop work and remove himself and the machine from the gentleman's property. I was reliably informed that since then, the APS has been trying to reach the gentleman, Mr. Kent Charles. Again, trying to close the stable after the horses are galloping down the road. What is sad though? Is that the Prime Minister, this must be a year ago already, telling us that they're going to pay the gentleman for his property. What is further saddened is that local Grenadians always seem to have to be begging this administration for monies owing to them. Some of them 2 years ago and more. Our contractors struggling to make ends meet, have their families to take care of, children to send to school, children to feed, bills to pay, mortgages. And they can't receive their monies. The Prime Minister has a way of saying, take us to court. You owing millions to our people. But here is a spokesman for Reno happy to announce they are receiving their monies on time. But you see, there was this rumor, I heard it. I had no proof, I ignored it, I didn't talk about it. But the news heard it and they did their investigation. Kudos to MTV. That Reno had stopped doing work because they needed their monies and they were not getting any monies. So I guess MTV went to Reno to find out what's going on there. And happy was Reno to deny such and to say that they are receiving their monies on time. Here's MTV.
Over the past few weeks, reports suggested that Reno Construction and Industrial Products had placed asphalt supplies for government projects on hold because of outstanding payments. The claims drew comparisons to a previous situation involving Consolidated Contractors Company Caribbean Inc., which had also halted asphalt supply in the past over payment concerns. However, project manager Sunil Pal says there have been no delay in payment. He explained that asphalt has been supplied in increments based on the needs of ongoing government work.
The process it works is they send a request of the asphalt, we send them a quotation, and from there they send a purchase order, we supply the material. Once the material is supplied, we send them a bill, and after that they send the payment to our account. As of now, I can definitely tell you that we gotten many checks from the ministry for the asphalt, because we supplying in pieces. It's not like something we have a certain quantity fixed that we supplying. So once we supply them like 500 ton or something, we send a bill to them, and it is in a process of payment. I don't find there is any delay in the payment.
Powell confirmed that a government asphalt order was temporarily placed on hold, but said the decision was linked to weather conditions rather than payment issues.
Yes, we have not supplied them for a couple of weeks, but we still have outstanding order. We have not completed all the orders which we got, and we have not gotten any information that they stop and they're not taking the asphalt. It's because the weather condition, they probably cannot use you cannot use asphalt in the rain. For sure, you have to wait for the dry time. It's not only the time you paving, it don't have to be rain. It's because the base have to be dry. For you to process the asphalt layer on it, it must have to be dry and clean, so that you can get a proper compaction, and it will allow the asphalt temperature to remain for them to do a proper compaction and other stuff.
He added that Reno Construction and Industrial Products continues to maintain a good working relationship with the government of Grenada.
In our understanding, the feedback we got is they are very satisfied with the services we providing to the government, especially in terms of the asphalt. We had supplied a good quantity of asphalt to them consistently every day, early morning, for them to start early, finish early. And the feedback was very good. Then after a certain time, probably they had a backlog of the asphalt, so they took a lot of quantities. Those days, apparently, they probably would have done a lot of work what they had backlog-wise. Now, I think they're still working on some preparation work and things. Now and then they ask for the asphalt, and we're providing them.
Kishon Thomas, MTV News.
Thank you, Kishon, for that piece. I guess the government of Grenada was not satisfied with the services of the local contractors. So they've gone abroad and brought in several so far. And I've learned, information reaching me, is that a new foreign company has arrived again, Earth Movers. So we have Reno, we have Namalco, we have Calco, and now Earth Movers. They're coming in slow but sure, huh? Or fast. I think we could say that's quick. Folks, that's a wrap on today's episode of Simon Says. It's always a pleasure conversing with you, keeping them honest. Thank you for viewing yet another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. I'm your host, Jenny Simon. And remember, a better Grenada is possible. Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.